Okay, this is day 127 of making little videos. Describe the day I thought in the life of Schizophrenic Dominic. I describe some amount of sanity while the world goes crazy and wars upon me. I have expressed that I experience schizophrenia, but I believe it is not a disease or that I am crazy, and that is a reality to be experienced. In day 17 of these videos, I describe why I call myself a schizophrenic rather than targeted individual. In day 45, I express 3-minute intro into why I make these videos in the first place. And some of it has to do with describing, I've written a book on medium.com in which I describe my thought processes, which is why I may have been targeted and why I may have had schizophrenia inflicted on me. And some amount of these videos is to describe me as a sane person and why my thought processes would maybe get me targeted, and to express some synchronicity and feedback I get through time and things of that nature and some of that stuff. Okay. The book needs to be edited, but I submit it now because it's imperative to be read. It describes the targeted individual program as a counterintelligence program. And so I was subject to in the center of it for a while, and so I just submit that. All right, so I was going to start off here talking about some synchronicity or feedback that I get from the government. And the first of, and it, by the way, this is the second edition of this video because I had submitted, and about 12 minutes into the video, I got cut off as I was calling ICE little babies. And so, right when I was about to call ICE a little baby, they cut me off. But I'll get to calling them little babies in a second. So hopefully they'll go through this time. And so, anyways, Josh Hawley responded to my statement about how Republicans are not for raising wages, and it was in relation to Ken Cuccinelli saying that the reason why they have to deport every last immigrant in this country out of the country or whatever undocumented person is because they depress wages in America. And he submitted a bill. Josh Hawley submitted a bill yesterday in response to me saying that 2 days ago that they are not for raising minimum wage, so don't buy into their BS. And he was saying he was raising the minimum wage to $15 an hour. Now the Democrats have been trying to raise wages $15 an hour for decades, and they have been met with hostility among the Republicans and opposition. And so they hate immigrants so much that they're pretending to be on the side of the working class, and they're trying to pit poor people against each other. So they're saying, like, side with us and we'll take care of you and we'll get rid of those nasty little immigrants and, the people they've been dehumanizing for a decade now. And so, and like, uh, I pointed out that if they were really for raising wages, they would support labor unions around the world. They wouldn't support authoritarian governments that squash labor unions in other countries. They wouldn't. They would be for giving immigrants citizenship rights and responding to the migration reality of aspect of reality with a adapted governance structure and integrate the world politically, but they don't want to do any of that. They would be for sharing revenue in companies with workers instead of all the money going to billionaires, and they wouldn't be passing tax cuts to billionaires while cutting jobs for arts and museums and stuff, So I said that in the last one, but I wanted to say it again because Josh Hawley tried to pretend that he's for uh, Josh Hawley tried to pretend that he's for a passing minimum wage at $15 an hour, and so we'll see if the Republicans go through. If they do, then that just means that they hate immigrants that much, And so, okay. I was gonna talk about. Oh, okay, yeah. Also, Josh. The reason why they call me Josh a lot of times, and that's because I had a friend in school. His name was Josh, and he worked at Disney, and I got along with him quite well, but not everybody did, and so they like to call me Josh or something, or you know. So that's some insult or something, or trying to be an insult. And all right, so that's that. I was going to talk about Gavin Newsom's speech yesterday, and I thought he did quite well in his speech. And the way I look at his speech, and I said this online or whatever, is that you cannot, uh, you cannot lead people who don't want to follow you. So if you don't meet them in their valid stance, where their community is being violated by a lawless agency and they're being bullied, and you don't shield them with your authority and be on the side of the people in your community, uh, no one's going to listen to you when you say, hey guys, let's march peacefully or something, They're not going to listen to you if you don't address their valid concerns as people in your state. And had he not said what he said in the way that he said it would have fractured the state. It would have fractured the government and people in the streets, and nobody would listen to him when he says march peacefully. And so, he would have been a feckless, kind of impotent leader at that point if he doesn't come out and stand with the valid concerns of the people that are being abused by the government. In which case, Trump has basically dehumanized California, and he's dehumanizing California, and he is basically declared war on California. And so I'll get into that. Like yesterday, I was sitting here and I go out into my living room, and on the TV is the President of the United States of America, and he's sitting with the United States military at his back, dressed in fatigues, and he's launching a verbal assault on our state in California. And he's basically saying that we're all in transnational gangs, that we're all a bunch of criminals, and that, basically using rhetoric that you would use before you go to war against somebody in the Middle East or something, and which is also wrong, but just like now he's turning it in on California. And so he was using this rhetoric, and it was a dehumanizing rhetoric which he's used against immigrants for decade now. And so it was but he was using it on the entire state of California and on the entire city of Los Angeles. And he got the military dressed in fatigues to boo our city and to boo California. And so that's concerning, and it's disgusting, really. It's pathetic that people would be for that, and it's pathetic that the American people stand for it, and so it made me think that, like, I always thought like there was a little bit of jealousy towards California. And I'm just gonna say this, but I just thought there was always a little bit of jealousy towards California by people because there's a little bit more wealth here compared to the rest of the country. There's more businesses and stuff. And it's like I used to think like that was warranted on some degree because it has, it was related to the fact that like Californians can be kind of like snobby or something, or like, like Californians can be, what's the word, kind of not obnoxious with like talking about how great they are, and some of that has been a response to the amount of dehumanizing trashing that we get as a state. this rhetoric of like California is the failed state and California is this and that, and like always bad mouthing California. And now I start to see like this jealousy is like really sick. Like you're sitting there with the military basically declaring war on us, and I started to, whoa, this jealousy is like actually kind of like a really sick thing, and it's like it's so uh, it's kind of sad, and so now I look at the jealousy in a whole new light or whatever, because now they're turning the military on people, they're whipping people into this frenzy, this anti-California frenzy and stuff, and so I was just pointing out that, and so he came in and he was bullying our state and the way he's been bullying immigrants, and so now the whole state is being bullied by Trump. And so I thought it was good that Gavin stood up to him, and if he doesn't stand up to him, the people will stand up to him, and they'll ignore Gavin's wishes to protest peacefully. They may do it anyways, but I don't know. I personally would think that this gets into a little thing that I had said. I had posted on my thing about this Peter Coyote, who said that uh, protests should be a ceremony, and that it should be inviting people into a process in which they want to side with you and think that you are a good leader to lead them in the country, because it's a democracy, and so they cannot be afraid of you. So if you're doing anarchist things or like violent things, which you're calling anarchy, and you're saying like I'm gonna burn a car, or I'm going to uh, burn a business or something, or loot a business or whatever, I think those things actually lead us down more towards an authoritarian fascism, because people say they're going to side with the strong man who's promising them protection or whatever. And Peter Coyote was saying that a lot of times the protests devolve into things which turn into right wing propaganda videos. And then you have to wonder, who are these people that show up to protest all the time and do these things? At one point, the police chief of LA was saying that these are the same people that show up to every single civil unrest and do this. So it makes you wonder who they are and what their end goal game is. Whatever. I don't know that it is necessarily for the cause that they're supposedly supporting, but I will say this, that there was the initial disturbance with regards to ICE raids, and supposedly citizens saw what was going on and got out their phones, started filming, and ICE started shooting at them, and that's when they responded and ran them off. And uh, I have to admit that watching ICE being run off made me feel good, because they're come in like big bullies, and they they got dressed in their military uniforms like they're big badass bullies, and they're snatching kids out of elementary schools, and they're snatching the gardener at Home Depot, or construction workers at Home Depot and stuff, and like big badass bullies or something. And then when people got mad about it and said, hey, this Nazi agency is coming in to our community and kidnapping us and sending us to God knows where and violating our due process, and people said, hey, we don't like you, and they got mad and ran them off. They cried like little babies and called in the National Guard and the military and the Marines, and then they have their war footing before the military and everything, and I mean, this country is like a little bunch of jealous babies, and they they are crying and whining and crying about uh you know the about our state or whatever, and so it's kind of sad. And so I have to admit, I did like that ICE got run off, and so I do think that like the protest needs to be a ceremony to invite people to your cause, but like uh you know so Peter Coyote has to share his thing, and I tend to agree with that and everything. I just have to vent here for a moment about the president basically using dehumanizing language about our whole state, and he is he's whipping up the country into this anti-California hatred, and yeah, so all right, I gotta stop here, and that was my talk today. That was what's going on and for my schizophrenia, and Josh Hawley copied me because I said he didn't support raising wages, and then he submitted his law to do it, and so he's hates immigrants that much. All right, goodbye.